Hey there, it's Laura. Welcome to back to Hey there, it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel. I've had people come up to me and ask me, okay, Laura, what do I do when I go to the thrift store? I've never been there. And I've been pondering this question a lot, and I think I have 5 good tips plus a bonus tip at the end because I like to put in a little bit extra to help you get started with your thrifting journey. So if you'd like some simple tricks on how to thrift, stick around for this video. I think the first tip that I can give to somebody who's just starting out thrifting is to definitely go on a day when you have nothing important to do. Take me as an example. I generally go to the thrift store on my days off. That's the best time for me to go. On my days off, I can spend 2 to 3 hours thrifting. Now, I also currently don't have a car, so I do take public transit to thrift. So you can tack on another 1, sometimes 2 hours on there. I think the most I've spent thrifting in terms of time was about like 5 to 6 hours, which is kind of crazy to think about. But especially if you're going to multiple stores, that's kind of how long it can take. So I definitely recommend to go on days where you don't have really anything important to do, time is on your side kind of thing. I wouldn't go on a day where you have multiple events and schedules planned. And this is coming from me, someone who works a full-time job, gets about 2 days off a week. I don't have any kids or things like that, but I do have family. I have a partner and a pet that I take care of home. And there's people like me who are a lot busier than that. They have kids, they have a bunch of commitments and things like that. So you're probably wondering, well, what if I really don't have time? Well, honestly, I can't really help with that because that's really on an individual basis, and that's more of like how much is thrifting a priority to you, which some of you might not be that high. For someone who's looking to make money off of thrifting and reselling and things like that, the priority for thrifting would be a little bit higher, so they may want to carve in a little more time. That's totally up to you. This kind of ties into my second tip, and it's to walk the store multiple times. This may sound really tedious, but walking the store multiple times at a thrift store is actually super recommended. Just to give you an example of how I'll walk the thrift store when I go there. So I'll take Unique for example. So generally I will go through the home goods section first. Then I'll circle my way to the toys and things like that. That's in more the back. Then I'll come around towards the front away from the doors. That's where they have like the wall art and things like that. And I'll go through that. Then I'll kind of circle back around and I'll go back to the home goods and I'll look at the stuff that's on the wall, particularly what's bagged and things like that. And then I'll do that all again. There's some days where I like to keep shopping for home decor separate from shopping for clothes. But generally what I'll do is that I'll go through the home decor, toys, and wall art a couple times, and then I'll go to the clothes and go through that. And I do like to do that because most of the time that specific store will be stocking on a regular basis. So if I give them a little bit of a break and I go back, sometimes I'll find something that's really cool. And that's really one of the reasons why you should search multiple times, is because oftentimes stores are restocking on the spot. There's also other people shopping usually. So generally they'll put stuff there that you didn't necessarily see. An example of this is that I was shopping in the clothes more towards the end of my thrift day. And I was like, I'm going to check the home decor section one more time because I saw a few carts going by. And sure enough, I found a spaghetti poodle, a vintage spaghetti poodle. I have never found one at the thrift store in my life until that point, which was super cool. And I love stuff from like that era. So for me, I was like, yes, this is mine. And that's, if I had just gone through that section once, I wouldn't have found that particular item. So it's super imperative if you want a thorough thrifting trip that you walk around the store multiple times, which is also why I recommend going on a day where you have a lot of time available. Another tip I recommend is bringing tools. Now, what do I mean by tools? Well, there's certain kind of tools that you can start off with. Obviously, most of us have a phone or a smart device, but there are several good reasons why to bring a smartphone if you have the availability and access to that. One of the reasons I like to use it is I like to take pictures. So if there's something that I like, but I particularly don't want to take it home, I feel like pictures is a great way to kind of capture that memory. Because let's be real, there's probably unlimited wants that we have in the world, but there's limited space and limited resources to get those wants. I will often take pictures of things that I like, whether it's something that inspires me or it's just something I found kind of cool and I want to share with other people. There's even times where I find things, like I said, that I get inspired on, and I'll draw pictures based on them or characters or art that's similar to them. Also, if you're more in the reselling realm, though this is typical for really anybody who wants to make sure they're paying a fair price for something, so you can look up prices, particularly on eBay, or if you have a Worth Point subscription, and see what exactly things are going for on the market. Something that's often come up in thrift stores a lot lately is that they will put stuff on the floor that is not necessarily, I believe, fairly priced, whether they're not really sure what they're doing. I've seen a lot of times where employees, and no offense to them, they'll put things on the floor and they'll put like an asking price on eBay for that item. Although somebody could ask really any price for anything on eBay, for example, it's not necessarily what the market is paying for. When you become more familiar with certain thrift stores, you can kind of see which ones will price things fairly and which ones don't, because there's definitely some still that will price things fairly, but there are some thrift stores that will price things a little bit higher than I believe that they should be. So having access to internet and looking up those things can help kind of guide you in the right direction and make sure you're not overpaying for something, whether accidentally or on purpose. Another tool that is super helpful is measuring tape. I always carry one with me, and it's particularly helpful if you want to buy furniture, artwork, or frames. Hand sanitizer is also a really good tool, and I feel like most people carry that everywhere nowadays, but the thrift store especially, things are used, and everybody has different hygiene levels and cleanliness levels, and so hand sanitizer can be very beneficial. A lot of the thrift stores I go to also have restrooms, so I like to wash my hands usually before or after my thrifting trip. There's also some more specific things that you can bring. Like, for example, if you're looking for uranium glass, a black light would be useful. If you're particularly looking at electronics, batteries are useful. These aren't things that are typically that I bring because I'm not looking for those specific types of items, generally speaking. But those are just some general tool ideas that you can bring when you're going to the thrift store. Also, another tool that you can bring are bags. Bags are always super important. If you live in an area that charges for you to use bags, it might be more beneficial for you to bring bags from home. I personally just like using my own bags and helping the environment a little bit by reducing on the plastic. This is a general tip for life, but it could definitely be applicable at the thrift store, is have a spending limit. Now, if this is your first time at the thrift store, you may not have a good indication of what things cost. There's also this kind of mentality that the thrift store is automatically cheaper. And while in a lot of cases that's still very true, it's very easy to think, oh, this is going to be cheaper, so I can buy more. So arguably the thrift store is very easy, if not super easy, to overspend at. I personally have overspent at thrift store multiple times, and that's why it's very important to have a spending cap when you go there. I think having a budget overall is just a good tip for life and will help you get successful in life, period. But for this specific area, especially depending on what your priority is and what you're thrifting and things like that, having a budget in mind and having a spending limit in mind will definitely help you put you on the right track. The fifth tip that I have is particularly helpful for people who want to buy clothes, and that is to have a size range in mind when you go to the thrift store. So I'm a woman, and as a woman, one of the things that I've noticed is that women's clothing sizes are super duper inconsistent. And I think it's because there are just so many brands out there, and every brand has a different idea of what each size is and isn't in their brand. With that being said, generally kind of know your general size. I'll give an example. So generally speaking, in shirts, I'm usually an extra large. Again, with how much women's clothing, and even men's clothing probably does too, but I'm a woman, so I know that a little bit better. Speaking how women's clothing sizes just vary all the time, I think it's super important to, even in general shopping, just have a size range of what you can find. At the thrift store especially, you're going to come across a bunch of different brands, and even though they may say they're the same size, they're probably not. They're probably physically a different size. So since I generally buy an extra large, I will search in the large through the 2X general size range. Most thrift stores kind of put large, extra large, and then everything above that all in one section, depending on how big they are. There are some thrift stores I've seen where they separate 1X, 2X, 3X, etc. But generally speaking, I will shop in that range. So if I'm looking for clothes or I just want to browse the shirts, I'll start with the large and work my way through the 1X and 2X, because certain 1X, 2X sizes run really small and certain larges in other brands run really big. So I think it's always important to have a size range when you go to the thrift store. I know some thrifters recommend shopping every single size, regardless, just look at all the clothes and every single thing. And I do understand that perspective, but I'm just thinking from a probability perspective and also from having limited amount of time, which everybody has a limited amount of time. I think it's just easier just to have kind of a size range in mind. Because me finding something that will fit me properly in the smalls and medium is a lot less likely, if not borderline impossible, than if I shop in like large through the 2X range, where I know I average out roughly at an extra large. So while you can shop all the sizes, I would definitely recommend having a size range of clothes in mind when you're shopping for clothes. Finally, for my bonus tip, and I think this is super important, is to have a good attitude when you're going to the thrift store. Now, what is having a good attitude at the thrift store? What does that mean? I think one of the important aspects of having a good attitude when you're going to the thrift store is being patient. Look, there are times where I've gone to the thrift stores even that I've had good luck in consistently in the past, and I have walked out with nothing. There's thrift stores where I have gone to new and I was really kind of skeptical that I would really find anything there, and then I find bags of stuff. So I think it's important to be patient and keep your expectations general. And I'm saying keep your expectations general because I don't want to say keep your expectations low, because it makes it sound like that you're just going to find a bunch of crap at the thrift store and you're not really going to find anything. But I think keeping expectations general is definitely a little more accurate. I think it's pretty easy, especially if you read the news or read more clickbaity articles of people finding like artwork that for $10 and then they sold it for $10,000, or all these people talk about how they find Coach handbags, or that you're going to find a whole binder of magic cards. You're going to sell them for $30,000 like that one guy did on Antiques Roadshow. That's an actual episode, by the way. That was pretty cool, I will say myself. While I think it's fun to dream about those things, it's kind of like dreaming that you're going to win the lottery. You can definitely find cool things at the thrift store, and you can definitely win the lottery, but don't go into the thrift store expecting to find something that will take you to retirement or will be super expensive and help you keep up with the Joneses. I think keeping your expectations general, like, oh, I may find a cool looking purse or some cool looking clothes or some cute little planters to add to my planter collection. Having reasonable expectations like this, I think, will help set your first thrift store trip on a good track. One of the ways that I like to have a good attitude while thrifting is thinking of it as a treasure hunt. I like the idea of finding something that I really like, something that's special to me, and something that seems unique to me. It may be mass-produced. It may be something that is not particularly unique, but it's something that I found, as I like to call it, out in the wild, and it's my special thing, and oftentimes I find it at a discount, or I'm saving it from ending up in a landfill. To me, that's really special, and I think it's fun to think of it as like a treasure hunt. So definitely overall, take it easy, have fun with it, and set your expectations at a reasonable level. Well, everybody, that's all I have for you today. I hope these tips will help you on your first thrifting trip. Let me know in the comments below if you went thrifting recently and if you used any of these tips while you were thrifting, even maybe necessarily before you watched this video. Or maybe you have some other tips that you did on your first trip that you'd like to pass the wisdom along to somebody in the comments. I would love to hear them. Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.